Do you think that children can become ghosts? So there are priests who perform a lot of exorcisms who believe that children cannot be ghosts. They believe that if you see a ghost child, it's definitely something else. However, on the other end, there are people who paranormal investigate who believe that children indeed can be ghosts. They believe because they've also captured them on video or recordings or pictures. Honestly, I don't know what to believe, so I'd love to hear your opinion on it, but this is important for today's video. Fabian says that when he was in secundaria, which is middle school here in America, he experienced something really scary. Rumors started circulating that people had seen a little ghost girl on the third floor in this abandoned room. He explains that these rumors started getting really crazy to the point where kids were asking to go to the restroom during class just to try to go to that third floor and see if they can find that little girl. It got so crazy that even some of the teachers were becoming suspicious of what was going on. And that was because when they did allow the students to go to the restroom, when the student would come back, all of the kids in the class would be staring at that kid for some reason, so they knew something was going on. They'd be thinking to themselves like, why is my entire class interested in this student coming back from the restroom when before that was never the case? Obviously, these kids thought that they were really smart and that the teachers wouldn't catch on to what they were doing. However, Fabian and maybe about 10 other students in that classroom were the only ones who had not gone to that third floor. And as you know, kids tend to peer pressure other kids into doing stupid things. So of course, the rest of the class would always look at those 10 other students, including Fabian, and be like, ooh, you're so scared to go see her. I can't believe you're so scared to go up there. And of course, Fabian didn't want to feel like a coward. I'm gonna fuck you can call me a coward all day. You would not peer pressure me into that. Fabian explains that he hated that feeling of being pressured, but at the same time did not want to go up there and see that little girl. However, one day he was in math class and they were peer pressuring him again so much to the point where he just raised his hand and asked the teacher if he can go to the restroom. Of course, everybody in the classroom got silent so quickly and they were just looking at him because they knew what he was about to go do. However, what the students didn't know was that at this point, all of the teachers knew what they were doing. They all knew that they were saying they were going to the restroom, but instead were going up to that third floor. However, the teachers didn't want to tell the students that they had already known, so when he asked to go to the restroom, his teacher was like, okay, Fabian, I hope everything goes well in the restroom. Fabian. The teacher, to kind of scare Fabian off from going to that third floor, also told him, hey, I'm gonna be counting down the time it takes you to go to the restroom and come back. So that was just an added amount of pressure to Fabian because he intended to go to that third floor. After Fabian steps out of the classroom, he starts running to the third floor because he knew that now he was being timed. He runs up the stairs, goes to the second floor, and in the second floor there was another teacher who of course knew what was going on. The reason why they didn't tell the students because they just thought to themselves, there is no way that we can stop all of them. However, we can watch out for them and make sure they're okay. Because what if one student really did need to go to the restroom and then we were like, no. So they had to let the kids go. And if they did indeed go to that third floor, at least they would have an eye out for them. Side note, all of the teachers had also gone to the third floor just to see what all the students were talking about. And they didn't see any little girl. It was just the abandoned room. They never saw anything. So that teacher on the second floor did see Fabian and he's like, okay, I need to be ready because if anything happens, I need to go up there. So then Fabian finally makes it to the third floor, and as he gets out of the stairs, there is a classroom with another teacher in there and a full class. But now Fabian needs to get through that door to that abandoned room, and of course, if he walks by there, the teacher or some students is gonna see him. So Fabian feels like he's on mission impossible, okay? So he starts thinking of a plan because 1, he has to get through this classroom without being seen. 2, he's being timed. And 3, he also doesn't know which one is the abandoned room. So what Fabian does is he gets on his hands and knees and he is crawling on the ground because the doors only had that window on the very top and not the bottom. He passes by the first classroom fine, no problems. Then he gets to the second one and realizes that the door is opened. If he crawls through that, he is going to get caught. Fabian really wants to make it across, so he comes up with a last minute idea. He gets an eraser from his pocket and decides that he's going to throw the eraser to a window that's in that classroom so that they can all look back and he could run down. So he does that. He throws the eraser, but he threw it harder than he anticipated. He threw it so hard that when it hit the window, he could hear all of the kids in that classroom start screaming and talking about, it's the ghost girl, it's the ghost girl. Obviously, he didn't anticipate for that to happen, but being that they were distracted looking back, he ran across that door without getting caught. So Fabian finally makes it to the first abandoned room. He looks in through that window in the door and he sees nothing in there. He goes to the second abandoned room and there is nothing there either. And then then he goes to the third abandoned room. When he gets to that door's window, he notices how dirty it is. So he decides to get his shirt and just clean a little part of the window so that he can see into the classroom. Soon as he cleans the window and looks in there, he sees two pair of eyes looking right back at him. In that very moment, he also hears a whisper in his ear, "Fabian." Immediately he gets goosebumps and he does not know what to do. He doesn't know why, but the first things that came out of his mouth was, "Are you the ghost girl?" He says that in that moment the windows of that classroom started shaking. However, in front of him he doesn't see those eyes anymore of that little girl. But then he hears that voice whispering in his ear again, "Fabian." He felt a chill down his spine, but he managed to just turn around and calmly walk away from that classroom. When he finally makes it back to his classroom, the teacher saw how bad he looked and asked him to go to the nurse. So he's an adult now sharing this story, and he explains that he never told anyone what happened. He didn't tell his classmates, he didn't tell the teacher or the nurse. He didn't share the story because he felt like they weren't going to believe him. He didn't share the story because after that day, he's felt that little girl with him. He explains that throughout his life, he's seen that little girl. Mind you, this happened to him 15 years ago. He says that sometimes when he looks in the mirror, he sees that little girl behind him. People who have come over to his house have asked him where's that little girl they had just seen. He admits that when he first saw her those years ago, he never saw her in the entirety. He only saw her eyes from when he cleaned that window. But he says that he has also heard that ghost children don't exist and that he believes that that is not a ghost child. And that was because when he did see her eyes that long time ago, they weren't normal looking eyes. They were green and they had a line in the middle, almost like a serpent. He says that it felt malevolent, it felt evil. There was nothing good that he felt when he looked into her eyes. So what do you guys think?